The permanent secretary, in most departments officially titled a permanent Under Secretary of State is the most senior civil servant of a British government ministry, charged with running the department on a day-to-day basis. Permanent secretaries of the non-political civil service heads are chief executives of government departments, which generally hold their position for a number of years at a ministry, as distinct from the changing political secretaries of state to whom they report and provide advice. History. When Lord Grey took office as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in 1830, Sir John Barrow was especially requested to continue serving as secretary in his department, starting the principle that senior civil servants stay in office on change of government and serve in a non-partisan manner. It was during Barrow's occupancy of the post that it was renamed Permanent Secretary. Role. Permanent secretaries are the accounting offices for departments, meaning that they are answerable to Parliament for ensuring that the department spends money granted by Parliament appropriately. Permanent secretaries are thus frequently called for questioning by the Public Accounts Committee and select committees of the House of Commons. The permanent secretary usually chairs a department's management board, which consists of executive members and non-executive directors. In the 1960s, the permanent secretary to Tony Benn when he was Secretary of State for Industry was Peter Carey. After Benn spent government money on worker cooperatives, notably a motorbike company, Carey went before the Public Accounts Committee and expressed the opinion that his minister's expenditure had been ultra-vires. Benn was soon moved to the Department of Energy, while Peter Carey received a knighthood in the following honours list. Some larger departments also have a second permanent secretary who acts as deputy. In the early 1970s, in a major reorganization of Whitehall, many smaller ministries were amalgamated into larger departments. Following this reorganization, virtually all departments had second permanent secretaries for a time, though this is no longer as common. The most senior civil servant is the Cabinet Secretary, currently Sir Jeremy Haywood. He is also the head of the Home Civil Service. The holder of this office is distinct from other officials of permanent secretary rank within the Cabinet Office. By convention, the Prime Minister is Minister for the Civil Service and as such makes regulations regarding the service and has authority over it. These duties are delegated to the Minister for the Cabinet Office. Honours. Permanent secretaries are usually created a Knight to Dame Commander of the Order of the Bath after 5 or more years of service in the grade or on retirement if not already holding the title. The most senior permanent secretaries, such as the Secretary of the Cabinet, may be created a Knighthood Cross of the Order of the Bath, and even be given a life peerage after retirement. For salary comparison purposes, the permanent secretary is deemed broadly equivalent to a general and to a High Court judge. Current UK permanent secretaries. There are currently 38 individuals in UK government departments with the grade of permanent secretary as second permanent secretary, though not all use these titles. Outside the UK, in some countries of the Commonwealth of Nations, the popular term for the equivalent position is now Principal Secretary. In Australia, the position is called the Departmental Secretary, Secretary of the Department, or Director General of the Department in some states and territories. In Canada, the position is Deputy Minister, as the political head of a department ministry is generally called a minister. In India, the equivalent position is called Secretary to the Government of India and is the highest-ranking permanent civil servant in a ministry. In Germany, the equivalent office is called Staatssekretär. In Hong Kong, heads of policy bureau secretaries were filled by civil servants until the titles were changed to permanent secretaries in 2002, when political appointees filled the positions of secretaries under the second Tung Chhwa government. Since August 2005, the Office of the Chief Executive also has a permanent secretary. His ranking is, however, lower than most other permanent secretaries according to the pay scale. In the Republic of Ireland, the position of Secretary-General of a department is almost identical to that of a permanent secretary in the British civil service, with the exception that since the introduction in the mid-1990s of the Strategic Management Initiative, the post is no longer permanent, but carries a 7-year time limit. This coincided with the introduction of the change of title from the previous title of Secretary. Irish government departments may also have a second secretary, which is equivalent to the second permanent secretary grade in the British civil service. See also Civil Service of the Republic of Ireland. In Italy, the highest civil service official in a ministry or department is either a Segretario Generale or a Direttore Generale, while the position of Sottosegretario di Stato is a political one and ranks below the Ministro Segretario di Stato or the Vice Ministro, both political posts as well. The Japanese equivalents are the administrative vice ministers. In New Zealand, the civil service head of a ministry is ordinarily entitled Chief Executive, though there are still some positions which still carry the title of Secretary. In some cases the title is Director General. Organizations with enforcement powers, such as the Inland Revenue Department and the New Zealand Police, are headed by commissioners. The New Zealand Customs Service is headed by the Controller of Customs. Civil service heads are officially employed by the State Services Commission, further separating them from the politicians who hold ministerial positions. In Singapore, permanent secretaries have to retire after a 10-year term, even if they are younger than the official retirement age of 62. Starting in 2000 when the Public Service Leadership Scheme was introduced. This is to provide opportunities for younger officers from the administrative service, the elite arm of the civil service, to rise up the ranks. In Sri Lanka, the post of permanent secretary is the civil service head of the ministry, normally referred to as secretary. Non-civil service political appointees are regularly appointed.